following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. Cannabis in the Zone returns to the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. It's been a while. I'm Ralph Tycho, and my big part of the legalization process in California of cannabis. And he's been away from these airwaves for a while, but one of my favorite people in the world, Dan Rush. How are you, sir?
I'm good, brother. How are you? And
good.
Speaking of my favorite, you've been one of mine for a long time.
I appreciate that. One of the first guests I ever had while doing podcasting came in. It's been about 11 years, if you can believe that. You came came to a studio where I was recording, and were gracious enough to give me some of your time in person, and I got to know you, and I kind of experienced your ups and downs vicariously through you. And if we name this segment anything, it will be called The Rise and Fall, ... and Rise Again of Dan Rush. We want to get to cannabis itself, but tell me what that says for you, the rise and fall of Dan Rush and the rise again. Tell me what that's about. Tell our audience what that should be.
Well, the thing, the way I look at cannabis in the last part of my union career was that war on cannabis. We were fighting prohibition, and wars have battles. And every time I walk into a dispensary today, or I walk onto a licensed farm today, I realize the government won a little battle with me, but we won the war. And now it's time for us to rebuild the infrastructure and put a sensible and regulation plan in place. And so that's what I do today is this new rise is I work on building cannabis and hemp holding companies. And I just want to say I don't have anything to do with being around the flower or touching the flower or handling the flower or any products. I can't do that right now. I won't be able to do anything like that until about September of this year. But I do interview companies, look at them, model them financially, value them, not myself. I mean, I have people do it. And we determine which holding company that they should go into. And
okay, so how will it benefit a company from going into a holding company?
Well, it's the nature of Western economic business philosophy is that companies are vertically integrated. And a lot of us in cannabis, a lot of folks in cannabis always thought that vertical integration was exclusive to cannabis and agriculture. And the reality is holding companies and vertically integrated holding companies are the nature of Western economic business philosophy. And I'll use the Pepsi model as an example. PepsiCo, they own Kentucky Fried Chicken, they own Taco Bell, which is the primary distributors of where they actually sell their Pepsi products. A lot more Pepsi gets bought in Taco Bell and A&W root beer and Kentucky Fried Chicken daily than gets purchased out of a store or out of a refrigerator. And so
Okay.
the reason that they do that, the reason that the companies do that is when they're vertically integrated, they make what they make, and they also own the companies that sell what they make. And let me take it a little deeper. In mainstream Western business economic philosophy, when you are a company like Pepsi, not only do you own your distributors and your retail outlets, but you also own the sugarcane fields that grow the sugar that goes in your Pepsi products. You own the mining companies that mine the mine to make your aluminum cans. You own the trucking company that distributes various products for you. And I think you can see where that's going. So a vertically integrated company is a series or a group of companies that are held by one company. The reason there's an advantage to that is because when it comes to investments, investors want to invest in they want to make $1 million loan instead of $100 million loans. Because every time you move money, it costs money. And
right.
So if you're vertically integrated in Holdington, you're very attractive to investors, and you also can do for a fraction of the cost everything involved in the making and distributing of your product. So that's what the rise of Superman is.
Beautiful. Let me just go over a few things. How will this affect these individual companies or outlets or dispensaries banking-wise? What with the federal law, how can they put their money?
Well, right now everything's because no federal regulation, and the best banking out there targets a cash register banking situation where you take money out of the cash register and you take it to the bank and you put it in. But that's not what banking is in the Western economic situation. Banking is a full range of credit lines, mortgages. Sure, you have bank accounts and checking accounts. You pay your bills through the bank. You put your money in. But when you're limited to just what's in the cash register, that's the best case scenario. There's a lot of it where people cannot bank at all. But FinCEN and some states have matured some regulations so that at least state chartered credit unions can, in some states, can perform banking. So the solution to that is federal regulation. Another mess of a problem that we have now is that the only groups that are allowed to invest in cannabis companies in the U.S. are foreign investment bodies, major investment bodies, pension funds, savings and loans, other gigantic pension and benefit entities, which are the place historically where companies and business, most companies don't live out of the cash register. They thrive on investment that they use to create a profitable environment, and the cash register feeds the debt or the investment. It doesn't pay the bills, and what pays the bills is periodic major investments in the companies. So these are things that the cannabis industry is learning right now. Unfortunately, they're learning it from Canadian funds and Japanese funds, Israeli funds, other funds that are coming here and literally buying up our industry before we even get a chance to to have anything before we have a chance to do our own growth.
And this is all because of federal and still exists. Am I correct?
Federal prohibition prohibits and precludes and actually makes a crime banking and investment for the most part in the
so
cannabis
isn't
industry.
that like cutting their nose off to spite their face? Because don't they want to encourage growth, United States, American growth, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that would seem to make sense. And but a lot of the things that our government does and the various bodies in our government that are all self-serving and bureaucratic, they like to be problematic and make sure that nothing happens. And mind you, that's not a statement from a Trump Republican. I'm not a Republican. I don't like conservatives, and the fact of the ultra conservatives. And the fact of the matter is, from a socially and economic liberal person myself, I see our government as being so wasteful, so stupid, so bureaucratically anchored in
on so many different levels, not just cannabis. It's just it's outrageous, and I never thought I would live to see the Constitution being in question, and someone who's going to run again for president denouncing the Constitution. It's sickening, to be honest with you. But you know what else bothers me on the other side, and you were a union guy for a long time, what they promised in legalization in California was that there would be a fair market for the workers too. That they would be paid union benefits. And in chatting with the people at the dispensary where I live in Alameda, that's not necessarily so. Can you address that?
Yeah, Ralph. God loved the labor movement, and God loved policymakers, because most people don't anymore. And yes, I devoted my life to the labor movement, and I'm retired from the labor movement now. I work in the private sector, and much of what I do is I help companies do their union contracts, labor peace contracts, agreements, collective bargaining agreements, negotiations. But I do it from a perspective of somebody who spent my life in that movement, and I still embrace the idea that every industry should be unionized, and most especially a industry of vulnerability like cannabis. So I'm all for that. I still am all for it. Matter of fact, I spent my life fighting for it. And one of the things I try to do, and in California, one of the last things we were able to get into Prop 64 before I was indicted and taken out of the game was the concept of union neutrality. After I was indicted, it was later called labor peace. And that's an excellent idea for folks that want to join unions. It creates a playing field where companies that have, after January 1st, companies that have 10 or more employees have to enter into labor peace agreements between the company and the union. And it's not a cumbersome agreement, but what it does do is it states the intention. It validates and verifies who's at the table, which union companies entering into labor peace with. And labor peace is really just a promise not to strike or have unruly, cumbersome, antagonistic attitudes towards each other. The union towards the company towards the union. And
right.
If companies and unions approach from a peace point of view, the other problem is you have a lot of lawyers and consultants out there who make tens and hundreds of millions of dollars every year encouraging battles between companies and unions. And they literally advertise based on fear. They reach out to employers and say, don't let that union push you around and come see our law firm. And we don't care how much of your money we have to spend to create a knockdown, drag-out fight that you're not going to win anyway. And
neither side really wins because both of them are paying the attorney fees.
Right. And then there's getting it. The workers get lost in it. So my company and I work for a company called Labor Resource Management now, Labor Resource Management Incorporated. And we're in Santa Rosa. And one of the things
you have a website that you can refer folks to.
It's www.lrmteam, that's one word, lrmteam.org. And my email address is dan.rush@lrmteam.org. And we're a company that does live event production. We have roadies and lighting and engineers and gaffers, and we do events like the Emerald Cup and PGA golf tours, and we've done Super Bowls, and there's a whole entire side of our company that does nothing but live events, and that's where I dwell right now as I'm preparing to venture back out into cannabis and hemp later on at the end of the year. And I also help I've built a labor peace program, and I tell folks there's no place better to come and find your peace with your workers, the union, your community, than with the very people that helped implement the programs and processes and get them to become policy and statute. Now labor peace is a mandatory requirement. It's a statute. It's a series of statutes.
So in some respects, we've come a long way because labor and management have traditionally, through the ages, labor wants to be paid more for their time, and management wants to pay labor less. This has been the tradition, devaluing the working person. And that you're involved in this is very encouraging to me. Dan, did we lose you? All right. I'm going to push the button and put it on pause and tell you it's the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. And when Dan gets back to us, we will resume our conversation. So stand by a second. Back with Dan Rush, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, Cannabis in the Zone. Thank you, Dan, for your patience with technology. You have more than I do.
Yeah, Ralph, Margaret and I moved to the village of Mendocino here, and so out here on the coast in northern Mendocino, cell phones are a crapshoot, just to put it bluntly.
Beautiful country, though.
Yeah.
You must admit. Do you miss the city environment?
Not a moment, not a bit. Margaret and I, we live in heaven. We live in a place called Outlaw Springs, and which I think is kind of an appropriate place for her and I to live. And so we just have this enchanted home. It's a loft, big giant rooms, cathedral ceilings, and my commute is a dirt back road. About 2 miles down the road, we come here to Mom's, and Mom is been widowed, and one of the reasons we moved here, we were heading back to the Emerald Triangle somewhere along the coast in the ancient redwoods, but we chose Mendocino and Outlaw Springs because Mom's here, and
beautiful.
I have to give Mom
tell me about your new romance and what brought that on, and how I read you and I read your postings. You and me both are two lucky son of bitches, I'll tell you that. What brought that on?
Well, I'll tell you, Ralph, and yeah, we are a couple of lucky sons of bitches. And so Margaret and I got married right before I surrendered to prison in Terminal Island. And we're going to be celebrating 5 years on New Year's Eve.
Wow.
And we are very, very happy. And I got to tell you, Margaret is just a stunning, brilliant, outstanding woman. And I'm way lucky.
I hear you. Me too.
We make jokes about her being a hybrid between Betty Crocker and June Cleaver.
Okay. So she may not appreciate the lucky son of a bitch remark.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
She's sitting right here.
Well, why don't you put her on for a second? I want to hear her voice.
Okay, here's Margaret Black Rush.
Hello, Margaret.
Hello, Ralph.
I just want to tell you that you made my friend happy. And no bigger compliment than that.
Well, that's wonderful. You know, it was funny because I was sitting there next to him the last interview you both did in 2017, probably around the same time. Yeah, and it was the first that I sat and I listened to the whole show, and I listened to him, you and he do an interview, and it was actually, it's always very, very educational, very informative, and it's really great full circle how here we are, you know, gone past the things that, you know, he's walked through and we've walked through together, and you're here on the line, and they're doing an interview again, and anyway, so it's a very good full circle thing, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you.
And Happy Rockefeller, too.
That's it. All right. Thanks, Ralph.
Got to remember her.
Yes,
She went through a lot. Poor thing. And put Dan on so I can say goodbye.
I sure will. Okay, Ralph.
All right, Dawn.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, thank you, Dan. Pleasure meeting your mate. And I reiterate, you're a lucky guy. And luck is the residue of hard work. And Branch Rickey, this great baseball executive, said that. So you don't be, it's not just out of the blue. People don't do well or have good things come to them out of the blue. There's preparation for that, and you got to earn your good luck sometimes. So,
well, I don't mind saying, Ralph, you know what, I do, and I have much of my life lived by a philosophy, a warrior philosophy. And warrior doesn't mean soldier and fighting. It means living a principle-driven life. And not just understanding principles, but actually practicing them. And I live by 8 principles. Humility, love, loyalty, piety, sincerity, honesty, and community, society. Well, open-mindedness, willingness, and gratitude. So
beautiful.
Sometimes it's a little more than 8. And but yeah, I am a lucky guy, and you are too, my friend.
I am, and I'm the first to say it. I'm knocking wood. Well, wait a minute. This is Formica, but I'll come back to the wood later. Thank you, my friend, for being here. Thank you for listening, everybody. If you've enjoyed this half as much as I did, it's been a good morning for you. And I'll have a link to this within the hour, Dan, and you can post it all over the place. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ralph.
Be well. And thank you for listening, everybody. It's Christmas Eve. Where I am, I don't know what it is where you are. This is worldwide. I'm in contact with about 5 different countries, people in 5 different countries through this. And I've learned that we are one big happy / unhappy world. And we're not just isolated. It's not Teddy Roosevelt. The countries depend on each other for existence. And so that's my Christmas message. And I just want to say again, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a happy holiday and happy trails.
So, thanks, Ralph. And we got to let Cash say hi here. Cash is our puppy. Yeah. He's our month-old Corso. Say hi, Cash.
Well, I'm talking to dogs. That's what it's come to. And if it's your dog and Margaret's dog, it's okay. I'll talk to the dog.
He's our baby boy, and he's in everything. Ralph, thank you so much. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and I love you, buddy. Thank you.
Most concerned with your health. Keep that up, Dan.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Dan Rush, his lovely mate Margaret, and me, the weak link of the whole damn thing. See you again.
You're a strong link, Ralph. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices, and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.